Hey, fam. Are you guys loving our guests so far? Because we've been recording them in batch. I just want to let you guys know we have been hard at it.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Hard at work as always, but we're just really excited that we've found so many amazing guests this season. We're already full up for the season, so how cool is that? We haven't even started releasing yet for the season. We're excited. We hope you're excited. And we are always open for more guests, of course, for the upcoming seasons. So don't forget, if you have somebody in mind, please let us know. And super special shout out to Sockbox Studios for always sending us really cool guests too. And today, our guest was sent to us from Ken Lee from Michael Weissy Productions. And if you recall, we've had a couple of other guests from him as well. But today's guest, Judith Weston, wrote the book Directing Actors. And she comes from an actor background, and then she became a teacher and really concentrates on the connection between actors and directors, which is so important that the two understand each other and what the other needs from the other. And her book just goes into such detail of breaking it all down. So many things I haven't even thought of, questions to ask an actor as a director and things to think about when you're analyzing a script. And it's awesome. And it's such a good textbook, I guess I would say. And which is funny because apparently colleges have adopted it as textbooks for their film school classes. So that's pretty cool because that was not the intention when she wrote it, So it just goes to show you that it creates. Well, the subtitle is Creating Memorable Performances for Film and Television. So it does just that.
And during the pandemic, she worked hard and released recently a new edition. It is the 25th anniversary edition from when she first wrote Directing Actors. So it's up to date, y'all. She's we just love the examples she uses. There's so many examples. There's so many tools, but I love that it's supported with relevant examples that we understand and how to work through pandemic times. Yeah. And we're all still doing Zoom. So I just love her positivity and how to make, everyone feel so comfortable. I just love she really instills comfort and allows both parties, everyone to do the good work, So really feel like this edition is super, super relevant for today, for actors, writers even. She has a whole script analysis chapter and directors. She's a legend. She's a legend, y'all. So we are just so honored to have her on our show. And you guys need to listen to this episode.
Listen and read the book.
Go read the book. It's on Amazon. Okay, bye. Thank you for agreeing to come on because we know our community, if they haven't heard of you, they should. And if anything, they can learn some tools today to just be a better director and how to work with actors.
Okay.
Tessa and I come from the actor space first. So that's yeah. And I feel like that has helped us in the creation of our projects and the way we work.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I'm really excited to talk about your book. I was excited to read it as well. We both come from an actor background. Carolina does directing now. I kind of steer away from that, but I really appreciate directors that know how to work with actors and actors that know how to work with directors. So because of that, I've been learning as much about directing as I can because I just think that's such an important relationship and the two should definitely understand each other. So I love
that's
what your book is about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. And the book is intended for actors as well, because a lot of times, when you're working with a director who doesn't know very much about how actors work, you have to do a lot of translating of the things that they say. You have to translate it into something that you can use, something that you can connect to. and commit to. But I taught for many, many years. I've only just last few years have not had a studio. I had my own studio for, oh gosh, I don't know, 30 years, I guess. And
wow.
Taught classes for actors and taught classes for directors. And then I also taught classes for actors and directors, because I think the most important thing is for people to practice, and to work with each other and demystify each other. So that was a big part of what my studio was about, was having directors and actors together and able to communicate and practice communicating with each other. So now I don't have my studio anymore. I let go of my studio about 5 years ago, and I do Zoom consultations with directors to help them prepare. And then I rewrote the book. I had written a book in 1996 called Directing Actors, and it turned out to become successful. And then in 2009.
So successful that it was like a mandatory read for film schools.
Yeah.
So Amazon bestseller, just that.
No, I know. I have to tell you, just a funny story is that when I first discovered that they were using it in film schools, I sort of panicked. I thought, is this being, am I being adopted by the establishment? I'd always intended this, I'd always intended this, the things that I was saying to be outside the box, and to helping people, giving people tools to think outside the box and not just not just follow conventional wisdom. But so I was worried, and then I was worried about a whole, like a generation of young film students who are reading my book because they were told they had to. And
I can see that. I can see why that would,
But whatever. I want to get the ideas out there. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have people who are now more conversant with these ideas. But actually, my ideas have changed quite a bit in 25 years. I think they were more advanced, more complex, more deep. And so when my publisher suggested this 25th anniversary edition, I was very excited. And then of course, it was pandemic, so I worked really, really hard. I had nothing else to do. So
and that's so.
No, it's like,
I was just going to say that's so important too, that you did rewrite it in like this current time, because it does include things about like quarantine life filming, and how do you work around that, because regardless, even if we totally get rid of COVID in the next like 2 years, we're still, life is different. This is a new normal, so all of these things are going to be something that filmmakers have to think about in the future. So I think that's really great that just the timing of that, worked out.
And the positive influence you have over adapting to those changes, I think is really awesome. Like really, like you can still connect. It's weird, it's not the same, but you can still connect with your actors over Zoom. And I wanted to definitely get into that because I love that that's something you include, and don't shy away or speak down on like, oh, this is nothing like how it needs to be, XYZ. You really, give tools in that space too.
Well, I'm very excited that I had the opportunity to do that. I mean, if my deadline had been 6 months earlier or something, I wouldn't have been able to include that.
Gotta love a deadline, Judith.
Right. So, but what you're describing, this a negativity about it, is exactly what I felt in the beginning. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when people were saying, oh, nobody's going to be allowed, not even the directors are going to be allowed to be in the same room with the actors. And I thought, oh no, that's going to be, nothing can work if that's going to be like that.
Totally.
And then, but I just finally, I said, well, it's got to work. We have to find a way to work. And it turns out that Zoom is really helpful for that. It's really more helpful than we thought it was going to be. it's a very, as a tool for directing actors, it's great. It's much better than Skype, and I used to use Skype. I used to do consultations on Skype because I had clients all over the world. But anyway, the thing, I don't know, your listeners don't realize that we can see each other. We're looking at each other, but there's three of us. So where our eye lines are all, all over the place. But
mine are like stacked. So it's really weird.
But if you're in a one-on-one Zoom, you can pin the other person and they pin you. And then it's very, very close to feeling like you're in the same room, because you can keep the eye contact. And you can have a very intimate conversation with your actors, say after you've cast them, to find out their ideas and to talk about things, to find out what problems there could be, and to make that connection. And as I kind of say, like maybe over and over in the book, listen more than you talk. For the directors, I'm always telling the directors, listen more than you talk. And it can be very, and it's so much easier to set up, because when you're trying to set up an in-person meeting in the before times, it could be, you had so many middlemen, you had agents and assistants and all those people to get through to, to make, and so many of those meetings would fall through, right? And it's much easier to set up a Zoom meeting and more likely to happen. And that's a big thing is for, directors and actors to have more contact with each other. That's a big thing that I'm always on about is, sometimes people come to me for consultations and they want me to help them get ready so they're not going to make any mistakes when they finally get to the set and meet the actors for the first time. And, I have to tell them I can't really do that. I can't make any mistake proof. And there's no substitute for doing it, for interacting with people and try. So I'm always telling directors they should take an acting class. They should meet actors. They should start shooting little scenes with them, and practice rehearsing. Learn how to rehearse. And there aren't that many places that are teaching directors how to rehearse, to be very honest. I mean, I used to do that, but my studio's closed. There are some others, but not a lot. And, but if in the absence of somebody to teach it to you, you've got to teach yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's probably a lot of focus on the production and the cinematography and your shot list. And then when it comes to like actors, like, I would say even the school that I went to, like, I wasn't in the film program, but I don't think I ever like heard about classes where they're being taught to like rehearse. And how does that look like?
Well, the thing is, there is no one way. So, that's, the excuse that some people give for not teaching a class like that, because there is no one way, but you have to, I taught myself how to teach, I had teachers, so I watched them, but I didn't really learn until I started doing it and making mistakes and sort of think, oh, well, I'm not going to do that again, And so it's really, I try to put out in the rehearsal chapter in the new version of Directing Actors, I try to lay out a way that an individual director without access to a film school or a private teacher who can teach directing, and the private teachers who can teach directing are really only in New York and Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure maybe Atlanta, I don't know, but so if you don't have access to that or the money, then you can make your, and I really try to give people step-by-step way to do to start with a one-page scene with one actor, and then do a two-page scene with two actors, and anyway, there's
find your own like rhythm and groove. Like, I feel like the biggest takeaways, like you put this so beautifully is that you have like so many, you know, I would say different tools that you can use when you direct, but ultimately it's not something you have to use all of them at all
No, not
times.
at
And
all.
like
Right.
you know, because it guys, this book, there is so much information, so much tea, so many like amazing ways to get your message across, or like, you know, ask questions and verbs and metaphors and like so many different takes on achieving the same goal. And so I just love that you, at the end of it, it's like, don't feel overwhelmed. Like you
Yeah.
will, you know, and so starting and just trying out different ways of communicating, I think eventually allows you to find the dialogue that is like suits you.
And I love too, like I'm a list person. Like I love lists, I love Excel sheets, I love organization. So like the appendices, I guess, at the end, like the lists of, you know, longer list grouped by emotional categories, what I just happened to turn to. And there's a verb list, script analysis list of topics, like everything that you talk about throughout all of the chapters, you actually break down like, here is examples of all of it. And you mentioned more than once, like, this isn't all of it either. This is like just a really good list that I have, but you know, there's more beyond this. So it's just so helpful for beginner directors that are like, oh, this all makes sense to me. This is exactly how I want to direct. Amazing. But now I have to think of all these ways to talk to actors and things
Yeah.
to say. Like, this is so helpful to get somebody started, especially if they've never done it before and this is something brand new they're learning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, and then to ask you know, if you just go back to this thing about if you don't have a teacher, enlist the actors to help you learn.
Yeah.
Ask the actors.
Yes.
Ask the actors, how am I doing? You know, did I make myself clear? Did I give you enough room to make it your own? Those are.
I wrote a note that I loved that you said, and I was like, this is so great, because I'm a person sans ego for everyone. Like, let's not have an ego attached.
Yeah.
And especially I think just giving yourself that permission, like, I don't know everything, is good and is okay. And so you said something, don't feel obligated to answer an actor's question you don't know the answer to. A good question is better than a bullshit answer. I was like, facts. Yes.
Thank you. You picked out my favorite soundbite.
Oh my God. Yay. It's so good because it just gives you the permission to not feel like you have to be the Lord Savior on high of knowing the entire script and like characters, and giving that room for nuance to happen between what the actor like feels about something and giving them permission to be a part of the film's, you know, story.
It allows for collaboration.
Exactly.
A moment like
Yeah,
that.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going
Exactly.
for.
Yeah.
But I don't mean by that the director should not be prepared. Directors really must be prepared. That's why I have the whole script analysis chapter and everything before it, you know, describing the tools of script analysis and how to get farther into your script. An interesting thing, one of my clients the other day, very accomplished director, a lot of credits. And then she hadn't read this book, and then she read this book, and then afterwards she said, you know what? She said what she loved about it was that it reminded her to ask more questions to ask questions of the script. You know, instead of just taking verbatim what the script says. You know, like the character says, "I love you," and then your analysis of that scene is that character A loves character B. That you know, there's a lot of reasons people say I love you. Sometimes their purpose in saying I love you is to get the other person to say it back. You know, that's different from if they say, what's underneath the I love you is an apology that I've never said this before. You know, that there's you need to interrogate the script, ask the script questions. Why does this person say this? And of course you need to take with some questions of the stage directions. If the stage direction says she can't stand to look at him anymore, I don't know, you just want to say why,
Yeah.
to at least ask why, what's behind that, to keep looking beneath. Anyway, so to prepare with a kind of a getting underneath the skin of the script, and with the goal, my idea of what a prepared director is somebody who knows how to recognize and articulate emotional event. That's a term that I have coined. I don't really hear other people using it, but
Yeah.
but I haven't found another one that I like as well. I heard somebody say that some teachers or some directors call it like a fulcrum, that a scene has a fulcrum, but to me that sounds abstract. And
Yeah.
what I have in mind, something has to happen in the scene, and it has to be emotional, not just plot, not just exposition.
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, so that's the and for a director to have a sense of that, and to be able to ask for that, to say, I love, to be able to say, I love what you're doing, but what I want to see in this scene is not an argument, but a coming to grips with the problems in with your character's relationship, right? Those are two different things. They could have the same words on the paper.
Yeah.
You have the same dialogue on the paper, and
Right.
but it could come across as an argument, or it could come across as two people grappling with the problems in their emotional history. So, and those are two different emotional events, and when directors are able to see their ideas in those terms, instead of just saying, don't yell so much, or yell a little more.
Dial it down.
Dial it down, or yell a little more, or something like that, that it can be, it just sticks more. It sticks with the actor more.
Yeah.
No matter how they've trained, I think. I really endeavor to find language that's ordinary language, that's not jargon, so that anybody can hear it.
Yeah. And going back a little bit to talking about, how the same thing on the page could mean, or could be so many different things because of, the subtext and the emotional event that you connect to it.
Right.
Just an example of that. I was taking a class similar to your approach of directing called The Actor's Director. It was taught by Cheryl Lee and Gary Hirschberger. And they did a kind of workshop form, so it wasn't really ongoing. But the idea was to connect actors and directors and to get them to understand each other. So one of the exercises they would do is just have a neutral scene that it's back and forth lines with why are you here? Well, you asked me here. Just that has no emotion attached to it, could be anything. And having the director in layers attach emotions, and then have two other people do it and have that director add, and then you see how different it can be.
Yeah.
Just a perfect example. And listeners, if there's any of you out there that are getting some people together to practice some stuff, that's a great exercise to do it on too. But yeah, just to illustrate that as an example.
Exactly. Yes. Terrific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then going back to what you just said too, how you word things to make the other person really understand what it is that you want to convey, because just yell less or whatever, that's not specific, and it doesn't explain why, and it doesn't, sure, I can turn down the literal volume of what I'm saying, but why? Because if it's coming from a place of, oh, I'm being quiet because, it's going to ring a lot more true.
Yeah, I always like to put in a caveat though.
Mm-hmm.
There are very experienced actors who really don't want to engage on the level of interpretation with their director.
Yeah.
I have to be honest about that. Actors come to the set prepared.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come in a blank slate. They come prepared. And usually I have found sometimes that if a director starts talking to them with all these ideas right away before the actor tries it their first time, a lot of times the actors just don't even hear it. because they have their preparation, they have what they want to, what they've worked out
Yeah.
for, and it's really helpful for a director to see that first before you start talking about the choices, because who knows, maybe they will have done it exactly the way you had in mind, and what, but yeah. And then if you do want something different, you might it's better to build on what the actors have brought than to say, now let me show you how I see it,
Yeah.
and it is true that a great deal of the work of directing actors is done in casting. So, you have to trust your casting, and trust, and look for what the actor has brought to it, and then I really think the title of the book is Directing Actors, but it's really, I really come to feel that what directors should do is direct the scene more than direct the actors. That make the scene work, make sure it has an emotional event, make sure it has a beginning, middle, and end. Make sure that something happens, and that something that happens leads to something that happens either in the next scene or in a later scene. And that's and a lot of those my script analysis tools are meant to help you with your shot list, literally. If you know what there is to be shot, what are the events of the scene. The turning point is another word, I suppose, for emotional event, the turning points. And then those are the things that are to be shot. And then you shoot what leads up to them and what happens afterwards. But that's anyway, that it is different, because I do think that a lot of directors have in mind, especially inexperienced ones, have in mind, what they think the character is going to look like and sound like. And so the tools that I have are meant to help you translate that into, the events that are underneath, and ask for them.
Yeah. Can you explain to our listeners maybe how to avoid directing an emotional roadmap versus like the emotional event itself? And because I feel like I loved that definition in the book, because I was like, oh yeah, like I'm focused on that. How do you avoid dipping into that?
It's really practice. I mean, you really when I was doing this rewrite, I thought, oh man, that's going to be everybody's question. What is really the difference? Because in the very first chapter, where I'm going through result direction to be avoided, and one of them is what I call the emotional map. Let's say, he gets upset when she's late, and then she feels hurt, and then it's kind of a laundry list of the emotional emotions that the characters go through in the scene. And and it starts to have a kind of a connect the dots kind of feel to it. And and what is the difference between that, which I think is not so helpful, versus emotional event? She lies to him, and then he retaliates by insulting her. Those are emotional events. That and what is and most of the time they include a verb. Most of the time they, she lies, he retaliates. And also they try to avoid the word realize. then she realizes that he has been cheating on her, but sometimes just taking the word realize out, because it intellectualizes the emotion, the events of our life. And in real life, I don't know, this is getting a bit esoteric. I hope this isn't getting too esoteric. But,
no, it makes sense.
In real life, we realize almost nothing until months later. years later.
Yeah.
You know, so when we do something, we're responding, we're reacting. We're not very, very rarely thinking things through. And in fact, if in real life somebody hurts you and you're trying to think about your response, what you've done is shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're
That's
not
your response.
realizing in the
Your
moment.
response is to shut down.
Yeah.
So it's to try to shift people into this more dynamic realm. Something happens and then it causes some, it's on the simplest level.
What's the exchange?
Yeah.
Like the clear exchange.
On the simplest level, the concept of emotional
Yeah.
event has to do with the concept of cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that's actually, yeah, that's well, like clearly simply put. Because I think it's a hard, I think, thing to I shouldn't say it's hard. When you realize what that is, it makes so much sense of the scene and where it's going. And I can tell like the direction of it. It's like, you know, this is how A is affecting B and what is happening between them. The cause, like you said, the cause and the effect. And that way, that just like puts it so much in simpler terms. And I think that's like what could really help. Help like understand that roadmap, because that chapter I was like, okay, I was trying to digest that because it's a bit complex, like when you're thinking
it's the
about
hardest part of it.
Yeah. In a way too, it's also the culmination of, you know, coming from, if you've taken acting lessons, then you probably know about like objective and super objective versus like tactics, you know, and it's always like the teachers want you to use, you know, active verbs, like you are threatening so-and-so, and, you know, like, and the more kind of active you can get with it and direct, like it helps you, and it's less just, oh, well, she like you said, realizes, like, you know, you have a real specificity to it. So this is kind of like combining all of those actor works into the director's version.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Yes. That's what it's all based on. I mean, I was an actor.
Yeah.
I started out as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, many years ago. I started out as an actor, and that, you know, that was started with my teacher up in San Francisco, or Berkeley, actually, Jean Shelton, and her, what's your objective? What's your objective? Over and over until, you know, sick of hearing it, right? But but it turns out that's the engine for people's emotional life, is what they need.
Yeah.
What they want, what they need. They need help. But, you know, the other important thing about that is somebody needs help, but a lot of times they do the wrong thing to get it. They need help, but they start demanding it.
Right.
And in real life, that's not so helpful, right? But in dramatic terms, it's very helpful for making a scene.
Yeah.
Is if somebody wants help and they say, damn it, you know, and then the other person pushes away from them. And then you've got drama. It's those series of events, you know, somebody pushes somebody, the other person pushes back. Sanford Meisner called it the pinch, ouch. Somebody pinches, the other one goes, ouch.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that kind of goes on, I could go on this other, like, other road of not judging like your characters. The example of you just saying, like, asking for help, an actor could be quick to say, oh, well, my character would never ask for help, you know, but maybe they are in what they are saying, even if it's harsh or mean, like maybe that's a cry for help, and that is how they're asking for help. So I love that.
And opposites, of course, are very powerful, very powerful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that another like thing you said that I loved was like, everyone flirts, or like, you know, it's like, you know, no, my character, like everyone, and that can look different for everybody, but that doesn't mean your character doesn't. It's like, you know, I love examples like that.
Right.
Yeah, that you were giving. Yeah, it was really cute.
Great,
I was
great,
like,
great.
yes.
Good.
And also from a purely just reader, not even like filmmaker, actor, anything, just the enjoyment of reading your book, I have to mention with examples like that, like it definitely kept it fun and light and like, because it's a lot of information to absorb for sure. I mean, it technically is a textbook now.
Yes.
But you know, but it's still fun to read, and it doesn't feel like it is just lists, you know, and it explains the examples in a way that I think everybody can understand and relate to. So just wanted to mention that because I, as a reader, really appreciate that. I think a lot of people will.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This season, Femme Regard podcast is sponsored in part by Celtics, the all-in-one solution for script writing and video production planning. And Femme, we've been using them for all our projects.
Celtics has been providing valuable script writing and pre-production tools for creators for 20 years, and their cloud-based studio just keeps getting better and better.
One recent addition we love is the multi-column AV script editor. This script format combines traditional script writing with storyboarding and shot planning for a visual-driven script writing experience.
With this unique script template, you can script write, storyboard, and create shot lists in the same document, easily prepare professional, presentation-ready documents for your team and clients, and work collaboratively. With real-time collaborative script editing, secure sharing links, revision tracking, and comments features.
And Celtics' multi-column AV script editor is completely connected to all tools in the Celtics studio for a faster and easier to manage pre-production workflow. Head to Celtics.com, that's CELTX.com, to create your free 2-project Celtics account and to learn more about Celtics' multi-column AV script editor. When you sign up, you'll get unlimited access to Celtics' full suite of tools for your first 7 days.
Celtics, the all-in-one solution for script writing and video production planning.
Tessa, I'm seriously digging Jambox. The fam needs to hear about their extensive music and sound effect library.
I agree. Not only do they have a huge library created by Hollywood-level composers, but you can search through it all based on criteria like genre and mood.
Plus, they even have detailed stems you can use to create your own soundtracks from the elements they provide. You can literally be your own composer.
6,000 unique tracks and tens of thousands of stems, plus over 10,000 sound effects. Carolina, that's amazing.
Oh, it gets better. They even gave us a discount code for our listeners. 10% off with Femme10. Connecting filmmakers with ridiculously good music and sound effects. Go and visit jambox.io and start leveling up your sound production.
Exactly. Again, that's code FEMME, F-E-M-M-E 10 at jambox.io.
Yeah, and you use like relevant actors in films, like in the Secrets chapter, Parasite, and the little things, you know, the little treasures in there, or just I loved those examples, or you know what Meryl Streep's done. Like we were familiar with like, you know, those works, and it's just nice. It's like, ooh, because I loved Parasite, so I'm like, oh, now I want to go back and see what that green rock,
Landscape rock. I mean, I of course I read everything. I love Parasite so much. I read everything I could find about it, so I learned what that was. It's called a landscape rock. You know, and it has to do with. I don't know, it's a landscape accent, I guess. But of course, in the movie, it was something bigger than that.
Yeah.
Right. And that, I was like, oh, that's intriguing. And so he, didn't tell his actors, like what it was, like what the meaning behind it really was, or, you know, it's just like, I guess in that chapter, I thought that was interesting too, that directors can have their secrets and so can actors, like from each other. And like, is that also just that kind of trust? Does that happen too, like over time, or how you like one ends up working? Because I could see that as a new director to want to overshare almost everything, you know, like that's how I feel. Yeah. But I love the idea of secrets. I think that's that's like the element of surprise and mystery that can, work together.
Well, I really think you need to have a conversation with any actor you work with ahead of time, before you start rehearsals, even one-on-one with nobody overhearing, and say, I want to make a deal with you. I want to make an agreement with you. I want you to be free to tell me anything. You can tell me anything you want. And specifically, if you think oversharing is a problem for, specifically if I'm oversharing, if I'm talking too much, I really want you to feel free to tell me. Mm-hmm. And, or if you have any complaint about anything that I do or that anybody on the set does, I want you to feel free to come to me and tell me. But here's what I ask. I ask you to tell only me. Mm-hmm. I ask you to tell me privately. Mm. This is so important. I think I have this idea that, directors, especially young directors, have heard, horror stories of actors melting down on the set and starting to scream at the director or somebody else. Now, this happens very rarely, I got to tell you, very, very rarely. But, the stories, when it does happen, they're big stories and everybody talks about it. And young directors get very frightened of it. Mm-hmm. And so they're so frightened, they become so frightened that might happen, that they become sort of shut down. And that's much more dangerous than the likelihood that an actor is going to melt down on you, because that's very rare. Yeah. Most actors are just such sweethearts, Most actors really, really want to help. They really want to, they want to be good in the project, and so they want everything about the project to succeed. Yeah, and they want to have a director. They want to please the director, and they, so this fear that the actors are going to say something publicly that will humiliate the director is very paralyzing in a very negative and dangerous way. Mm-hmm. And so I think, if you have this conversation and you say, I will hear anything you say, I will not take it I will not be offended by any negative thing you have to say to me, but I ask you to say it privately and only to me. And then you look them in the eye and say, can we agree to that? And then you, of course, you also say, and I will keep anything you say to me confidential. Mm-hmm. But you see how much freedom that gives everybody. Yeah. And then you can, I don't know how, I'm not sure how you can have trust without having a conversation like that. Because people are always afraid that somebody's going to betray them, that somebody's going to, not, do something hurtful. But the thing is, sometimes actors lose their temper. I mean, you guys are both actors, right? Actors are, they're a little skittish. They're a little emotional, right? We're supposed to be emotional. I mean, I'm an actor. We're supposed to be emotional. Yeah. And so the actors need to be allowed to have that room to be emotional. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Without it, as long as nobody's being abusive, of course.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was interesting too. A takeaway on this topic was that you had written like a tip for in an event, like something that happens, the actor needs a moment with you, that you create also privately and separately a signal with the DP when like maybe you just need a moment with the actor, and like no one really needs to know that moment needs to be had. Yeah. That, like the DP's like, oh, we're gonna mess with the lights, and you go off with the actor and have your private moment. I thought that was so clever.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Heard of that. Well, this is a very subversive idea, which you would have to set up with your DP ahead of time. Ask them if they how they feel about it. I was told this idea from a DP who took one of my classes. He said to me that whenever he's working with a first-time director, that he always would do that. That he would go up to them ahead of time and say, look, if you need a moment with the actor,
lovely.
I know. I just think that guy gets a special place in heaven. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
Anyway, but as far as but I think it's very important for a director to have a very close and intimate relationship with their DP.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, that leads me to something you had mentioned. You wanted me to talk particularly about people who are, acting and writing and directing in the same thing.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more about that,
is that
because a
you,
lot of
Carolina?
times it's
That is me, guys. I was just doing a little ballet movement or attempt of one. Yeah, that's me. And like, oh my gosh, Judith, I just being heavy right now, revising your script constantly. I'm heavily engrossed in the story. And then when I'm reading your book, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to over complicate the directing? Cause it's so not overcomplicate. That's not the wrong word. I have so much of the backlog on my own, and I work intimately with Tessa, who's going to be co-starring in it, that I just, I still love this idea of still having room for us to explore in rehearsal, and
Well, have you directed
and how,
things that you are not in?
And the first short, and aside from that, that I've been also in it, and I know it's difficult to sometimes run to the camera, and so I envision a very heavy rehearsal prep period with us to explore those moments.
Well, is this a feature or a short?
It's a feature.
I would do more shorts for.
Yeah.
I really would do more shorts where you're the director and not acting in it.
Mm-hmm.
I would, and I mean, without spending any money, not something that you're going to sit at festivals or anything, but just practicing. I saw a list of things. Who was it? Was Sam Raimi or somebody of what to do? It was on a screenwriting Instagram account, but they had this wonderful list. But one of them was make a movie every week. And work with actors, shoot it, edit it, see what people respond to. And so I really feel very strongly you have to practice. So you should more shorts that you are not in, and then start making some shorts that you are in, and so you have practice. So that's what will build up your confidence more than anything. And
so true.
And then the other thing is get help. Now there are a couple of there are some really great movies that were written, directed, and started by the same person. One of them is Do the Right Thing. And another one is a movie called Wanda by Barbara Loden in 1970s, early 1970s. And so I don't know about that much about how those were made, but I do know more about two recent ones. One by Radimus Prime. That's her DJ name. Wait a second. It's called the 40-year-old version. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh gosh, it's such a good movie.
Okay.
Wait a second.
I pulled it up. It's on Netflix.
It's not version.
Right.
40-year-old version. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yes. Rada Blank. That's her regular name. And her DJ name is Radimus Prime. But anyway, Rada Blank, she wrote it and she stars in it and she directed it, and it's really, really good. So I would read anything you can about her. Now, she worked on it for a long time. There's another one, another movie by Stephanie Turner, and it's called Justine.
Okay.
Now Stephanie was a student of mine, so I went and we had lunch together after she finished. After she'd done Justine, and after I'd seen it, it was really beautiful.
Okay.
And the thing she talked about the most, she said she spent a year with her DP. She found a DP who was willing to spend that kind of time with her.
Yeah.
And they went through every scene over and over again and figuring out the the blocking and the camera angles of every scene until it was such a part of her that she didn't have to stop and think about it.
I love that.
So
yeah.
And then the other thing she did was to have a friend of hers on set to watch her performance. Now, if Tessa is already also in it, I don't know if that can work.
No,
you would have to
definitely,
separate.
It's like a co-director, really.
That's what I think I want for sure.
I think you need a sort of silent co-director, and you need a really good double. So that
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you need a really good stand-in.
I'm definitely gonna look at Justine. It's also on Netflix. Just also, if anyone's listening and they're like, "Ooh, I'm interested." Yeah, both of those films are on Netflix to watch. So I'm it. But that's definitely helpful.
Yeah, stand-in is something we have not even thought about, actually. We planned on having like associate director or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, stand-in is a fantastic idea, because then that does allow you the freedom to go, do the director things at the monitor and see what it looks like and all that, and then come back and, really get to see
I did
what
that
it is
once
look
for a play that I was playing the lead in a play, and I was also co-directing it. And so I had a co-director, but I also wanted to see myself.
Yeah.
What it was going to look like. So I had we shared the role. She took almost half of the performances, and so I would come to her rehearsals, and we both the other character, the leading man, was the same for both of us, which really helped. But anyway, and then I could watch, I could watch her, and it turned out things that I thought were working when I was rehearsing the role, when I saw her doing them, they didn't work at all. So I, it really is good to have a good, a really good stand-in, who's a real actor. And, so that you can, you just need a lot of help, and you need a lot of practice, and you need to sort of practice both of them, and become, and make yourself a director.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's 1000% hear and agree. And it's really, I think it's a big undertaking. So you want to be prepared to take all those elements into consideration. Yeah. No, that's helpful, Judith. And again, like reading your book just was like, I didn't go to film directing school, so this was like so helpful to take me through like the different tools, and and
to break down the process too, from analyzing the script and what all goes into that, to then when you are in rehearsal with the actors and what goes into that, to then when you're on set, and just really like breaking each of those into chunks, and then each of the chunks into little bits, and really dissecting all of it, because it's easy to forget certain things, and some people don't think that rehearsal is that important, which I think me and Carolina both disagree with, though we think it's very important. But and this explains why.
If there isn't any rehearsal, you can be okay. You can just go up to each actor before the scene starts and whisper to them, "Do you know what you want?" If everybody says yes, shoot the scene.
I love that.
The thing to not do if there's no time for rehearsal is to spew out and try to stuff into them all your ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
See what they've
absolutely.
brought. See what they brought. Make sure they want something from the other actors, and then see what they've brought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And block it well. Do a good job of blocking. And I want to say one other thing about this thing about making, being the writer, actor, director. The thing that you want to do with the, I want to say this the right way, but the thing you want to do with the movie has to be bigger than yourself. You know, like do the right thing. You know, it's meaningful. You know,
Right.
it had a purpose in the world, and that you'll see that with Justine as well, and also the 40-year-old version. I don't know, they're just wonderful,
Yeah.
but and that has to be your touchstone. Not, am I doing this right? You know, because that's what will be a distraction. If you're worried about, am I doing a good job of acting at the same time as I'm doing a good job of directing? That will just be a distraction. Whereas if you're connected to what the story is about, that it's about friendship, or it's about loss or redemption, or whatever it is, that that's the thing. That's where your focus and your concentration has to be.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that.
And that just, it's going to make a better film, you know, like, yes, the purpose is beyond just, let's make a good movie, but even just on that level too, like, it's going to make your performance as an actor, as a director, all of those things better anyway, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about our film's message, and it's I'm very attached to it, and I love that, and I love your idea of like doing little index cards of like that could be such a subtle way of reminding, you know, myself each take, like, this is what matters the most. Are we achieving this? You know, I love that. So thank you for saying that, because I can, as a new filmmaker, you can't help but like worry about that. It's natural. Like, I think, like, I don't think there's anything wrong about feeling that way. It's gonna happen. Yeah. But don't allow it to be a distraction. That's so great. Thank you for saying that. That is really great. It just brings back to what really matters the most. Again. Yeah. Are we serving the story? That's like my thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And listeners, you can get the book on Amazon. And Judith, as far as, is there any other places they can find the book?
It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on
Barnes and Noble.
And it's on my publisher's website, mwp.com.
Perfect.
Shout out to Michael Weiss Productions.
And, you know, Chris, it used to be I don't know if you can always check with your independent bookstore and ask them to get it. You can always try that.
Yeah, fantastic. And then do you have a personal website as well, or anything? Social media?
JudithWeston.com. And that has links. That has a lot of stuff on it. But it also has links to my social media. And I post little things on there, you know, tips and
lovely.
Sometimes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be following you now because I want those tips.
Okay.
And and thank you so much, Judith. This was awesome. I'm really glad we got to talk to you and also to read your book. You know, it wasn't just, oh, this person wrote this book that seems like it's really fantastic, but we actually got to read it and break it down with you. So that was really
thank you.
a great experience. Yeah.
Yes, a pivotal moment in my educational career. Like, this is my film school. So Judith, you are a legend. Thank you. Like, literally, I started just hearing more about you before in the coming months, and you have been in my back of my brain. I'm like, I gotta get to this book. And then this wonderful opportunity happened. So again, thank you so much.
It worked out very good.
Yes.